Good morning. European Freight Leaders News Hour moves to Barbados in the Caribbean, a part of the world that's sometimes in the headlines because of difficulties with natural disasters, but a very vibrant economic community. So I've got the privilege today of meeting with Executive Director Deodat Maharaj, who came into this post quite recently. So welcome to the European Freight Leaders Forum. You will be broadcasting to our Luxembourg conference in May, which is going to be another exciting event. So, the role of the Caribbean Export Development Agency is what?
Well, first, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity and giving Caribbean Export the chance to speak with your colleagues at the conference via a virtual presentation. And welcome to Barbados and welcome to our offices here in Warrens, Barbados. I mean, the Caribbean Export Development Agency, our job is quite simple. Our job is to promote Caribbean trade and brand Caribbean globally and to help steer foreign direct investment to our shores across the Caribbean. And the Caribbean Export Development Agency includes countries, the 14 countries of CARICOM, or the Caribbean Community, plus the Dominican Republic. So it's a sizable market with incredible opportunities. And it's a vibrant region and sub-region on the move.
Now, there's I gather, for example, the population is 18.5 million, is that right, in the combined CARICOM countries?
Yeah, it's a bit, that's the Caribbean community, CARICOM, but when you add the Dominican Republic, you add a population of an additional 12 to 14 million people.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a sizable market.
So, looking, in fact, at the audience here, what do you think are the main challenges? Because a lot of people perceive the Caribbean, of course, as a tourism. What are the main challenges you face? And I suppose in one half, and in the other half, the opportunities. So, challenges first. What are the key challenges that you face every day when you come to your desk?
It's not normal for me to reverse my responses, but I would like to do so because this is a time of incredible opportunity to do business in the Caribbean. The Caribbean being one of the most climate vulnerable regions on the planet, we have recognized that a green economy transition and to have climate resilient economies is really critical for all the countries in the region. So businesses that are keen to invest in renewables, solar, wind energy, anything associated with a green economy transition, we have incredible opportunities here in the Caribbean. At the same time, a big priority for us as a food insecure region, which is a challenge for us, is how do we build food security and create jobs and opportunity for our people. And therefore we need to leverage technology in the agriculture sector. So AgTech is a big area for us, and there are incredible opportunities. And we know that businesses in Europe, they have a considerable expertise in terms of AgTech and leveraging technology in agriculture. So I mean, we'll be more than happy to have you come look at the Caribbean and look at opportunities in our region. And of course, the Caribbean is known for sun, sea, and sand. It's much more than that. And so we have opportunities in the area of e-commerce, digitalization, innovation. As I said earlier, it's a region on the move. And of course, there are challenges like everywhere else in the world, like Europe and like other places. I mean, we are dealing with the challenge of COVID-19 and the pandemic, but I think we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Secondly, we have a challenge, as I indicated earlier, of climate change. But we have also recognized with that challenge comes an opportunity. I mean, and that's why we are embracing a green economy transition. I mean, the International Labour Organization and the Inter-American Development Bank did a survey. And in that, no, a study rather, and in that study, they said that a green economy transition will create an additional 400,000 jobs in the Caribbean. And speaking about opportunities, next week, we'll be in Dubai at a major Caribbean investment conference headed by His Excellency the President of Guyana, as we seek to profile the Caribbean and the opportunities that we have here. So we would encourage business people from across Europe and elsewhere to look first at the Caribbean. And it's not only about opportunities for investment, but there are trade opportunities. I mean, we have fabulous products. So we have niche products for a niche market. And then you're in the Caribbean, and one reason you are in the Caribbean is because of the vibrancy of the culture and the people. And for us at the Caribbean Export Development Agency, we see services as the next frontier for Caribbean business. So the business of music, I mean, everyone in Europe knows about reggae, but we have soca, we have calypso, we have Caribbean fashion, and therefore there are massive opportunities for buyers as well of people who are involved in the services sector, the business of music, the business of carnival, creativity, culture, fashion.
And what about recognizing fashion, for example? Do you see that as one of the major opportunities here, with Europe as a major market for fashion?
Yeah, so we don't mass produce like a country like China or Vietnam or in India, but it's not a premium product, right?
Right.
For a premium market. So if you buy something that's absolutely Caribbean, you know it's 1,000 other people or 10,000 other people, they're not wearing it. You're probably the only one, or one of 10, or one of 15. So it's about a niche product for a niche market. And things Caribbean, I mean, of course, they're fabulous.
Now, what about commodities and products? The agro you mentioned. Bananas, presumably, are still a major export activity.
So we are still, especially the Eastern Caribbean and Dominican Republic, Belize still export bananas. But when we think about commodities in the Caribbean, we think Guyana, for example. Guyana is like, it's going to be a massive producer of oil. It has started producing huge amounts of oil. Suriname as well is an oil and gas producer and will be producing much more in the time to come. Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, has traditionally been an economy driven by the energy sector, driven by natural gas. So the Caribbean is not only sun, sea, and sand.
No,
the Caribbean is a serious place to do business, and it's not only banana. And in the past, we did sugar, we did rice, but it's about oil, it's about gas, it's about light manufacturing, it's about nearshoring. So take for example Guyana, take for example Suriname. As the only Dutch-speaking country in South America, you have businesses from the Netherlands investing in outsourcing in Suriname because the Surinamese speak Dutch.
Right.
So when you think about opportunities, it's not 50 years ago or 75 years ago. It's a region, I think, that's definitely on the move.
How do you, COP26 in Glasgow, of course, was looking at a reduction in hydrocarbons in general by 2050. How does that sit practically with the oil and gas developments in the Caribbean area?
Well, the first thing I should say is that as a region of tiny, small countries, we are the least responsible, okay?
Oh, obviously.
Right? For the climate disaster and the climate crisis, right? When you look at all the data, I was looking at this just maybe 2 days ago. I mean, it's the developed countries that contributed to all these emissions. So I think that as I started off by speaking, for us, a green economy transition is an imperative, okay?
Right.
But how do we manage our economies and how do we create jobs and opportunity for our people? So for example, as a region, we are largely ineligible, with the exception of Haiti, for overseas development assistance. We don't get concessional financing from the Inter-American Development, the World Bank, or any financial institution. So we have to go in the market and compete whilst we're facing a climate crisis, whilst we're facing a coronavirus pandemic that has decimated tourism across the region. So I think that it is fair and it is reasonable to use our resources in a manner that could also enable a green economy transition.
And of course the blue ocean economy as well, I noticed.
Precisely.
I passed the Ministry of Maritime Affairs.
That's an important area, because for us innovation is really important in the Caribbean. And when you look at the data, so we are called small island developing states, but take for example St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's an island of 179 square miles or so, but its ocean space is close to 10,000 square miles.
Yes.
The Bahamas, its ocean space I think is like 850,000 square kilometers. So we are trying to turn the traditional assumption of being a SIDS, or a small island development state, on its head, because we could also be considered as a big ocean state.
Indeed. Now, I was very interested in the CARICOM profile. You have the quasi-cabinet with prime ministers from different countries. And for example, I think Bahamas are responsible for, they're responsible for, no, economy is the Prime Minister of Barbados here. And I think it's St. Vincent the Grenadines Prime Minister is for shipping, maritime.
Yeah, and then you have...
Does that count? That's a wonderful initiative. Does that, I've never heard of that before. Is it really becoming a very effective way of operating?
Well, we are small countries with limited resources and we need champions, right? And the best champion you can get is a person who runs a country, the Prime Minister or the President, right? So the best way to tell a story, right, is to use an example. So Guyana, for example, is leading CARICOM on agriculture.
Right.
Okay, so as I indicated earlier, Guyana and the Caribbean is a very food insecure region. So we actually had the first ever regional virtual AgTech investment conference where the President of Guyana headlined, right? And where we had, I think, over 700 potential investors from around 70 countries participating. And why they participated? Because you have the leader of a country playing an important leadership role and being a champion. And that's why I think it's so effective, because we don't have the resources of a United States or a United Kingdom or countries in Europe, and therefore it's so important that at the regional level we have leads with responsibility for certain areas, like Trinidad and Tobago is leads on the issue of national security.
And for example, maybe the EU could benefit from that kind of model. The EU, of course, Britain has now left the European Union. Some of us regret that quite seriously. So I suppose that leads to two questions. Are there models here that we can learn from in Europe, in the European Union? And my second question might be, has the relationship with Britain changed dramatically since it left the European Union?
Yeah, so firstly, I think that when I think about trade and I think about investment, I mean, we in the Caribbean, we are clear. We are talking about a one-way arrangement, right? Where we only benefit from preferential access to the European or the UK or other market. We have massive opportunities here in the Caribbean as well, okay? And we need to buy expertise in innovation, in technology, and therefore there are opportunities for business people there on both sides. So that's one. Secondly, in terms of experiences and lessons that you can learn, of course, I mean, we as small countries, we have been able to move from strength to strength with our regional integration arrangements. We don't have any member country of our arrangements leaving. Right. Actually, yes. we are growing. And thirdly, we have strong regional institutions. So it's not only the Caribbean community comprising heads. So I work in a regional organization that has a remit for private sector development, okay? This morning I met another head of another regional institution who works on institution in terms of strengthening our trade arrangements at the regional level. We are a disaster-prone region.
Yes.
We have SEDIMA, right? And SEDIMA works on, reducing the risk associated with disasters and helping us respond to disasters. And it has like a regional mechanism where countries put resources.
Right.
So if there's an emergency and you need support, country X will provide something, country Y will provide something, and so on.
And
so
the European Union is a strong partner in this relationship.
Yeah, the European Union is one of our traditional and strong and a valued partner as well, including with our agency. On the UK leaving the European Union, what the data is showing really is that in terms of our own trade arrangements, there hasn't been any massive impact. I would say. I mean, the European Union, continues to be a very strong trading partner. And when you look at the data, the numbers are increasing over time, both in terms of our exports of goods and services to the European market and our importation of goods and services from the European market, whilst our trade with the United Kingdom, particularly the English-speaking Caribbean, continues, I would say, as what obtained in the past because of historical and traditional arrangements as well.
I mean, I get the Octa newsletters of the overseas territories, and that's terribly helpful because it brings together, does it not, small areas of the world into a cohesive model for cooperation and collaboration. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think here at the regional level it's a bit different because the overseas territories, I mean, that's like a governance construct that's particular to the UK, right? Here we have CARICOM, the Caribbean Community. The membership would comprise essentially of sovereign member states, right? Though you have, like Montserrat, for example, is not a sovereign member state, but is still an associate member of the Caribbean Community. So that's like a bit of a nuance to the arrangements that we have here.
Is it right to say that, I mean, UK, Germany, and China, and the US are sort of members also of CARICOM, non-state members of CARICOM?
No, not really. They perhaps at meetings would have observer status, but they're not members.
Observer status, right.
But what we have other regional institutions like the Caribbean Development Bank,
which I know about.
Yeah, and the Caribbean Development.
That's probably what I'm thinking about.
Yes. Right. Yes, exactly. And the Caribbean Development Bank provides like 18% of development financing for the Caribbean. And you're right, because the United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada and Italy are also members of the Caribbean Development Bank.
And that is a major institution, isn't it? And their president, in fact, spoke at COP26 in Glasgow.
And a very important regional institution. I mean, for a region like us, we spoke about best practices for other regions. I worked for a time in the Pacific as well. I mean, the Pacific, they have no equivalent to a regional financial institution. So we're quite proud of the Caribbean Development Bank, and I'm especially so because I'm a former staff member of the CDB.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a very interesting remark. If we look, the CARICOM rests on four main pillars: economic integration, foreign policy coordination, human and social development, and security. Very laudable, but you've got the other undertakings which I found particularly interesting. Just apart from the Caribbean Development Bank, there was the East Caribbean Development Bank, the Organization of East Caribbean States, and the Association of Caribbean States. Now, how do they all integrate with each other when we're looking at the good fortune of the Caribbean area?
Yeah, so the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States is a political organization comprising the islands of the Eastern Caribbean, so St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia. Your cruise ships would go to some of these places, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and they are smaller countries with unique challenges and opportunities as well. So they have decided that it's really important for them to work together. And they have made really good progress. So rather than these several individual jurisdictions, each having an individual currency, like in the Pacific, right? Each Pacific jurisdiction has its own currency. You have the Eastern Caribbean dollar. Makes it easier, right?
Yeah, of course.
Then instead of each country having
and
its
central
own
bank,
central bank,
St. Kitts.
Right, there's St. Kitts and Nevis. You have a common central bank. So you pool your resources together and you get economies of scale. And the same Eastern Caribbean countries are also members of CARICOM. That's not, to my mind, an anomaly or anything like that. I mean, in the Pacific, you have the Melanesian Spearhead Group and you have the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat, and one is part of the other. So it's not a big deal. But I think the Eastern Caribbean countries and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, given the fact that they are an agglomeration of relatively smaller countries, I mean, working together, including at the CARICOM level, I think is effective. Because in CARICOM now you'd have comparatively larger states: Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Belize, as examples.
And Bahamas, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah. And the Association of Caribbean States essentially is a construct comprising all states, washed by the Caribbean Sea. So it includes Central American countries, Colombia, Mexico, Venezuela, but that's also valuable because when we think about markets, and we were talking about Europe earlier, where is our closest market? I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and if I go to the southern part of the island on a clear day, or even on a clear day, I see the shores of Venezuela.
Yes.
So we have to think about our neighboring countries and building bridges to them And these political organizations, whether it's the
Very
organization of,
important
absolutely, right?
Critical
Absolutely important role.
Mhm.
You wouldn't read about it in the newspapers in Europe ordinarily, right? But the Association of Caribbean States is a forum that would bring together English, Dutch, French, and Spanish-speaking Caribbean countries together.
Right.
And as small countries, I think together everyone achieves more, right? So
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think I suppose I'm going to say it. One of the reasons I felt it was wrong for UK to come out of the European Union was because, to me, today, with the world opportunities and challenges, everyone working together creates a better result. And I think that is something which is so fundamentally important. And you've demonstrated it here in the Caribbean.
No, and that is precisely why the small states, we recognize the imperative of coming together and working together. And let me give you another example, not on the trade and investment side, but on the education side. So just think about it. If each country is to have like an examination program for its students, right? It becomes quite complicated, because then you have Grenada would have to do something, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Barbados. It's just too much, right? Taking from limited resources. So guess what we have done? We have a common examination system, right? And it's called CXC, the Caribbean Examination Council, that sets the exams of kids who are writing exams at 16, so your equivalent of O-levels, and who are writing at 17 or 18, equivalent of A-levels. And I'm very proud to say that we also have a common university system, and a fine university that's ranked in the top 1 or 2% of universities globally, the University of the West Indies. So I mean,
This is very important.
Yeah, we have clear and wonderful and working examples, right, of regional institutions working well, and where people coming together and doing things that are making a difference to our people day in, day out.
Now, coming to, as I must do because I'm from logistics and shipping, in terms of the shipping sector, the main, are you generally satisfied with the maritime services that come to the Caribbean? Have you sufficient maritime support, not just with container ships and with bulk carriers and tankers? Would you like to see further hub developments? Where are you at as far as the maritime community is concerned?
So there, I'm not happy. Right?
Okay.
I'm not happy with where we are in terms of shipping and logistics, and this has been exacerbated by all these global, global value chain and all these disruptions that would have taken place. And what we have seen as a consequence of that has been prices for our Caribbean people. Prices when you go to the supermarket, prices have been skyrocketing. It's the biggest in the United States, in Europe, but for us,
it's been massive, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's massive increases. So this is a big issue for us, and with that high cost, we have recognized the importance of maybe revisiting this issue, because take for example within the Caribbean, we rely a lot on North American and European, supply and logistics and shipping, but it's cheaper, right, to ship a container from Port of Spain and Trinidad and Tobago, or from Barbados to Miami or New York, than from Trinidad and Tobago to Guyana, or from Trinidad and Tobago to Barbados, just mere hundreds of miles away. So we need to really revisit
You've
this
got
issue.
tropical and the other services. But this was a problem in different parts of the world. It was a problem between Australia and New Zealand, with some of the constraints to free trade. I wonder what the way forward in this is.
No, the way forward, we need to ramp up our own regional arrangements with shipping. So take for example the Eastern Caribbean, to have certainly more ferries taking people,
right,
but also goods. And this is an area, as Caribbean Export Development Agency, we work in the area of investment promotion, and we're looking at perhaps packaging a project to take to market to see if we can get investors in this particular area. It's really important because it goes to the heart of
and
our
this is
economies.
warehousing as well as actual maritime services and so on?
Yeah, more maritime services.
Well, maybe this is an area where, for example, with the European trade leaders, a lot of our members are maritime members.
No, absolutely.
So that would be an area where at least a conversation could be very useful.
No, we would love to have that conversation because this is related to another issue. So take, for example, Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have like deep historical and cultural and people-to-people bonds with Africa.
Right.
And our trade is like minimal with the African continent.
Right.
And we see this is an area of incredible opportunity for the Caribbean. But
Right.
in terms of shipping and logistics, I mean, Africa and West Africa, by air, if there's a direct flight from Barbados, it's 5 or 6 hours
Right.
to Accra in Ghana.
Right.
So how could the Caribbean be used as a hub from West Africa to Europe?
Use
Or to
Caribbean as a hub for West Africa.
or to South America or to North America. So that's
a very interesting
right. So
observation.
So that's one. Secondly, okay, we in the Caribbean, because of all these free trade agreements, we have a free trade agreement with Canada, CARICAN, the EU, the Economic Partnership Agreement with Costa Rica, with Cuba, with Colombia. We have a lot of free trade agreements. So the Caribbean can also be used as a beachhead. So if you're an Asian business person or investor, you want to access the Canadian market, the European market, the Colombian market, establish shop in the Caribbean or use it as a hub, right?
Well, I didn't expect that, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating scenario.
And what we offer that's different in the Caribbean, right, is that when you look at what's happening in the world, I mean, it's quite sad. But, it's like a lot of challenges taking place. But we in the Caribbean have been an oasis of calm and stability amidst a world in turmoil.
Yes,
right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and then when you look, I mean, political stability, we have a government changes in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago or Barbados, right? I mean, there's a smooth transition. So your investment really, I mean, is assured.
So, yes, but if there's a predictable climate, sort of geopolitically, it obviously enhances investment opportunities.
No, absolutely. But even amidst uncertainty, you have to.
You've achieved it.
Yeah, you have to go where there is calm, right? And there are immense opportunities here in the Caribbean.
Now, which, if we look at port in developments, are there a number of projects and port developments within your remit going on right now?
Yeah, no, I think that we are not directly involved in this, but the country that I think would have done the most, two countries would have done the most, I think, in this area would have been one, Jamaica,
right,
which sees itself as a logistics hub.
Indeed.
And especially for ships coming through the Panama Canal,
Indeed,
going to North America, going to Europe,
yeah,
and the Dominican Republic. They have done, I think they've even attracted investors from the Middle East.
So Dominican Republic and Jamaica right now would be the key hubs.
Yeah, I would say so.
For Panama, Europe, Panama, North America, East Coast.
Yeah,
or North America,
yeah,
West Coast.
But Trinidad and Tobago also now, they're positioning themselves, given their location, Trinidad and Tobago's location, vis-a-vis Brazil, a G20 country,
yes,
vis-a-vis Argentina, another G20 country, vis-a-vis Africa as well. So, and Trinidad and Tobago as an energy-driven economy, I think, has much to offer in this area as well.
That's very interesting. You see, these are the kind of messages we've got to get across, because these are key questions, and it's only by coming here that you can understand the priorities you have. But your relationship with the European Union goes back a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have, the European Union has been a long and an enduring and a strong partner of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, and indeed our region. So it's a valued relationship and a valued partnership. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, whilst we seek to further build and consolidate this relationship, it's important for us to also look at new markets for these new times that we are living in.
Indeed.
In Africa, in India.
So ACP,
Indonesia.
effectively.
Absolutely.
Africa, Caribbean,
Absolutely.
Pacific.
So we love, so that's why I very much value the partnership with the European Union, but also the ACP. That relationship with Africa.
We had, when I was Secretary General, we did visit very much ACP, and in my early shipping days, 30, 40 years ago, I was dealing with ACP.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think it's a much undervalued institution. I think we should be having much stronger relations
No,
with it.
absolutely, absolutely. And then when you look at the P in the ACP, right, the Pacific. So when you look at the Caribbean and the Pacific, we are regions that are very similar. We are both, the Pacific and the Caribbean together, the two largest small island developing states regions on the planet, okay? And for us, we face similar challenges, so it's so important to work, I think, much more closely with the Pacific. Because if we add ourselves up together, we have numbers to influence not only the agenda in the developing world, but the global agenda as well, because there's strength in numbers as well.
So the key messages from this wonderful discussion, I think, are going to be ACP as a priority to look at and further develop, development of maritime services through hubs in the Caribbean, and great concern, I think, you're expressing about the very high cost of goods due to a lack of maritime services.
Yeah, and global supply chain disruptions.
Issues, which is not helped, of course, by the Ukraine situation.
Yeah, and to also re-emphasize, I think that the Caribbean is much more than sun, sea, and sand. Of course, we are proud of that. And when you look at the people, I mean, when you think about companies going to Suriname or to Guyana to do nearshoring, right, to outsourcing, and they're doing that why? They're doing that because literacy rates in the Caribbean, right, they're amongst the highest on the planet, averaging around 95%, right?
That's underpublished, I think,
right.
globally. Yes.
So for us in the Caribbean, it's a great place to invest. It's a great place to do business. We are regional on the move, and the priorities that we have are consistent with the priorities in Europe and elsewhere. But the key thing for us, and the big difference, is that we offer that political stability. And as I had said earlier, we are an oasis, you know, and what about in a globe amidst with turmoil.
Well, indeed, especially now. Well, just nearing the end, of course, of this wonderful discussion, China has put a lot of investment into the Belt and Road Initiative, and in fact, by 2025, they will have completed maybe the first part of their strategic plans, with massive investments in rail and in transport infrastructure. Are the Chinese investing in ports here in the Caribbean? Are they investing heavily in general in the Caribbean compared to other parts of the world?
Well, I can tell you that compared to what I've seen maybe 10 years ago, there's been a big increase in investment from China. I know in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, they are investing in a port in Trinidad and Tobago. But we in the Caribbean, it's important for us to be open to investment, consistent with our interests, and that's the basis that we are treating with all partners. And the world has changed, and so must we, consolidating our existing strong relationships, but also looking to new partners as well.
Well, indeed, and we are in a very changing world, for sure. Well, I think maybe a final message from you in terms of summing up your views, your relationship with Europe, and how you'd like to see some closer collaboration with Europe.
Yeah, I mean, we value our relationship with Europe, but we are ready in the Caribbean to take the relationship and the partnership to the next level. Okay?
Right.
It's not only about getting preferential access to the European market, that's important and that's valuable, but it's also about accessing European expertise, European goods and services. And it's also about getting European investors to the Caribbean to invest in areas that are also of the highest priority to Europe, such as green economy transition. So we going forward.
And the UN 25 Sustainable Goals.
Absolutely. So the SDGs, I mean, all our countries they have signed up to the Sustainable Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, and we are committed to that agenda. But in closing, I mean, the point I want to really make is that we in the Caribbean, we are regional on the move. We are open and we are ready for business, and we are willing to partner with you in Europe.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been a great privilege to meet with you, and I hope we can continue the dialogue.
The pleasure is mine, and thank you so much for this engagement.
pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.